Everybody. Hello, hello. It's For the Love of Creatives. Maddox and Dwight here, and today we're welcoming our host, Nicko Coleman. Welcome, Nicko.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, we're really glad you're here. We've been looking forward to this, and I can tell you've already calmed down. What a beautiful thing.
Ain't that the truth?
So I'm going to pass it over to you for a moment and let you just share a little bit about who you are and what you're about with our audience, because you can do that better than I
Okay.
can.
That's a loaded question. So, I'm Nico. I am just the most creative version of myself I think that I've ever been. So, I grew up doing art and I now have a design business. And the more that I have created with this design business, the more I have kind of opened myself up to all the things creative that I've done growing up. So I do photography and I do music and um, I draw and I paint and it's all such a multifaceted thing. So I that's me. I'm multifaceted. I always used to call myself a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades or whatever a Joe of all trades, either one. But I do all the things. So it's always really hard to pigeonhole myself into this is who I am. I feel like I'm constantly becoming more, which is really exciting. But
I think that's why I love the term creative so much because it kind of encompasses all of that so beautifully. There's a
absolutely.
wide berth when you're a creative. You're not pigeonholed into any one thing.
Yeah. And growing up as like everything creative was automatically, it just came easy to me. So, um,
Oh,
and I
okay.
have,
You got some haters right now because it
oh, I
does,
know.
doesn't come easy to all of us.
It's nothing new either. Everybody used to, give me a hard time and be like, what do you not do? And well, I don't know. There's some things I haven't tried yet. So I don't know. I'm fortunate that that just rolls, really, really easily. But it's also hard when I want to try something new. And if it doesn't come easy, then I don't have a lot of patience for that. So,
Oh my God, you are telling my story right now. I mean, I've been a lifelong creative and it most of the time comes easy to me, but I'm painting now and I've been painting for like 7 or 8 months and I'm still waiting for that breakthrough when it feels like it gets a little easier. It's just lots of fugly right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
I despise the learning process, which is horrible to say that I do not like that. I like to be automatically good at everything. And I feel like something set me up for failure when it made some things come natural because I don't have patience.
Okay, there's a great starting point. What you just said, I want to hear more of that about that because something in your environment informed that, I want to just start something and be good at it right away. Talk a little bit about that, please.
Oh, absolutely. So I am on the spectrum of autism and I have ADHD and I have OCD. So I have all of these things in my brain constantly fighting against each other. I have this ADHD that's very creative and wants to do everything a certain way, but then I also have autism that needs everything to be this way, and then I have OCD that needs it to be perfect. So I'm constantly having to look at myself and say, it's okay, you know, progress is better than perfection. I hear that all the time. I hate it, but it's true. I have to remind myself because growing up, I've been around perfectionists, which I feel like kind of brought on some of these tics or these, the way that I act. Um, so everything that I do is very needs to be a certain way. And I'm very hypercritical, have a very loud inner critic. So what other people see as, wow, that's great. I'm like, well, it could be better. So it's horrible.
Nico,
Yeah.
was there? Oh, go ahead, Dwight.
No, I think that there's ways that we can all relate to that because I know that there are certain things that I have to lean on just to be okay with getting through the day. So,
Mhm.
a very interesting ritual for me is I try to set myself up so that I know that I can have some degree of success in each day. because I can't relate to everything being easy. For me, life is a constant series of challenges that I overcome. And it's in that process of being able to meet those challenges that I can mark progress and feel like I'm not stuck.
Hmm.
But
I
it
kind of do the same. It's almost like creating a checklist of things that you've already done that day to check them off and feel accomplished. It's similar. And I
yeah.
do that. I need to say, "Hey, I did one thing today. Good job." You know.
I think it's very common for people on the spectrum, neurodivergence, to mask. We've had a lot of conversations about this, and I never really think about it too much because Dwight doesn't necessarily talk about how challenging things are. But as he was saying that just then, I was going, but my God, you make it look so easy. He does. He makes it look very easy most of the time. He just takes on a task and then it's just done and it's done well.
But you don't know everything that's like swirling in here to make that happen. It's the same with me. I just I try to make it look easy, but that's all about masking. It's all about that duck on top of the water that looks calm, but it's paddling furiously underneath. That's me 100% of the time.
So you mentioned this inner critic that's pretty tough on you. And now I have one of those as well, so I can really, really relate. And I know that's environmental. We don't come into the world with that inner critic. There's somebody
Hmm.
in our life, somebody that was significant that modeled that for us, usually a parent. And then when
Hmm.
we leave home and we get away, we're so from that is so familiar to us that we have to take it with us. And that's when the inner critic is kind of born. When the
Hmm.
person who criticized us is no longer there, we take over that role. So, I mean, we don't want to throw anybody under the bus. This isn't about making anybody wrong, but was it a family member or somebody close to you that was that critical? For me, it was dad. It was my dad.
Yeah. My dad, so my parents divorced when I was 2. And my dad remarried quickly thereafter. And his wife was not not good to me. So I went through, they were married from the time that I was 2 to the time that I was 12. So there was a lot of, you know, child abuse. I look at it now and it feels like such a big word to say, but it was abuse. I wasn't hit, but it was abuse. And that, from 2 to 12, like that's so
I'm so
much.
sorry.
Well, there's your
Yeah. It's
formative
just,
years, you know,
yeah.
and
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 emotional abuse is usually worse than physical abuse.
yeah, I mean, and there was some like slightly, but like nothing that was. Yeah, I probably downplay it to myself because like saying that seems so huge. But yeah, so during that time, that's going on, 10 years and the formative years, and so I learned one thing was to be critical, but I also learned that the first time I told my dad that anything was happening, he went to her, and then the next weekend that I was with him, it was worse. So that also taught me as a young kid, don't talk about it because things get worse. So then you start bottling everything up because we don't talk about things. So yeah, that taught me that young, and that's why I'm in therapy today is because I'm finally here. I'm 45 years old and just been in therapy for a year. So that's a lot of years to have a whole lot to talk about that I haven't really done. So um, yeah, that definitely formed that criticism of myself from a young age. Yeah,
You, Nico, I want to acknowledge you and honor you for getting help. It's a
appreciate that.
it's a big step, and sometimes it's a really hard step to take that first step. But you know, it's up to us.
Yeah.
Nobody can help us through all of that except for, I mean, a professional, yes, but they can't do it for us.
Hmm.
And you've
Right.
stepped up, and it's just a really big deal. And so now I think in just you sharing that on this public platform, you're modeling to other people, that we have to do our work. If we want the life we want, we have to do our work.
Definitely. I mean, I grew up, that was my weekends with my dad. I grew up in a very religious, strict home with my mother, which my mom's great. Uh, she's amazing. But being raised super religious with so many rules and such high expectations to be perfect, you're attaining. You're always told that you're not enough. You need to constantly earn something. And so that also, so I'm getting it from two sides, but I have a home full of love, but with this indirect criticism there. And then I'm getting direct criticism from another. And those are the two people that have all my trust. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up very, very critical of myself because it was never good enough. And I still hear that.
Yeah.
I'm better,
Well,
but I hear it. Yeah.
you're describing family dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to put a label on it, that's family dysfunction. I
It's
don't know very
true.
many families that don't have it, but that doesn't make it okay. It isn't easy,
Right.
sure.
Well, thank you for being so public and so bold in sharing, because it makes it easier for others to even know that there's an option.
Right. And that you can come out on the other side of it and it doesn't, you can choose how it affects you. And that's one thing I've always said. I could be so bitter and so closed off to everything. And instead, I'm just super enthusiastic and positive and excited about things that are just nerdy and dorky. But like, that's how I find myself. That's where I find my joy. I'm glad that I was able to look at it from a different way and not let it destroy me, but instead just kind of catapult me into a better person. So,
You're really doing a beautiful job of demonstrating our what we talk about a lot here on the podcast, which is becoming. I mean, you could have taken a bitter route, but you chose to become a different person. You consciously and intentionally made that choice. And I
mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of our world that doesn't really realize that they actually have a choice. I hear
Mm-hmm.
people say, "This is the hand that I was dealt." You know, well, yes, but you can always throw those cards down and deal again,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know?
Just reverse like an Uno, just flip it.
So I'm going to take this a little step further because I think this is important, and I think since this is past, this is something that you can probably answer. We've discovered this question is too hard for future, but um, in order to not become that cynical, bitter person based on all you had endured, you chose to become something else, something that is outgoing and positive and uplifting and joyful. Who was it that you had to become to be able to make the choice that you made? That, for us, the becoming thing is it's the who, not the what. The what is I decided to become an artist or I decided to become a musician, or that's the what. The who is and this internal thing.
Mm-hmm.
We had to let go of something, maybe a limiting belief, or we had to adopt something new. Um, we had to choose a different way of seeing ourselves. Who did you have to become to get where you are right now in that positive, uplifting, let go of the past type person?
While it may sound like an easy answer, it's so multidimensional, but I had to become me. That was, I was never me. I was always masking. I was always performing. I was being what was expected of me. And like all of this, my business, my creativity, everything has been happening because I became myself authentically and didn't hide and didn't mask it from people because I lived years as a chameleon. That's what I tell people is because I knew how easily it was for me to turn it on for this group of people and then turn it off. And I'm with this group, so then I turned this personality on and I knew how to please everybody but except for myself. And so when I dropped all of that and became me, that's when it all kind of started falling into place.
Can you articulate what enabled you to do that, though?
My wife, um, that was the biggest turning point. I needed encouragement because I had lived that way so long, living double lives, being different personalities, pleasing everybody, and um, I wasn't out as I'm a non-binary, um, and I was not open about that. I was very hidden, and I lived separate lives. So I went to church and I did this, and then in my free time, I might drive an hour and a half to go be somebody else, you know, because that's the way I was raised. I was raised that it was so wrong. You don't live like that. So I didn't tell anybody. I just hid it and I masked it and I went along with the motions and made everybody happy except for myself. And so when I met my wife, who was my friend at work, um, that was the first time I felt like I had met somebody that it was worth blowing everything up over. Like, this is the moment where I have a really big decision. I can do this and I can be happy and I can just live how I want to live, but that's going to require so much. And I might lose everything, but is it worth it? And to me at that time, and still today, it is, and it was. And that's where I found myself, is because there was finally somebody who was telling me, do what you want. And there was nobody having any expectations of me other than just being happy. And that first time was just, and so it's been a slow progress, because how many people are 40 years old and trying to discover themselves and figure out, okay, what does all this mean? How do I be myself? I don't know. Um, but yeah, that was the moment I just said, okay, well, here we go. And
Well, good on
it's
you.
been great. Yeah, it's been great. But yeah, it's been a lot at the same time. So,
It's that step that we always hear about, the story about taking the step before you see the stone that you're going to step on, you know,
hmm
um, or jumping off of a cliff and knowing that you're going to fly rather than fall to your death.
it was definitely jumping off a cliff, no parachute, just hoping,
And
you
it
find a
paid off.
canopy down there.
How long have you and your wife been together?
We've been married for 2 years, together for 4.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And she's amazing, just so everybody knows.
So she showed up as, oh, I guess, a confidant, an angel in
Mhm.
disguise. She encouraged you and she met you where you were.
Yeah. And still to this day, she is like the biggest cheerleader for me. I've never had somebody just to go 10 toes in for me, no matter what. Um, she roots me on daily. And no matter what I'm doing, she celebrates everything. She thinks everything's a big deal that I do. And that's just huge for me,
It's a life game changer, isn't it?
completely. Yeah. The life that
Yeah.
I'm living now, like 5 years ago, wouldn't even believe it.
You're very blessed that fortunate, blessed, whatever the right word is, that you came to this at the time that you did in your life. Some of us, I didn't get where you are till much later in life, much later.
And
And
I feel so late.
I don't question that because I think everything happens in its own time. It wouldn't have worked if it had come down at an earlier time. There's a reason it didn't come down at an earlier time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I still think, what a beautiful, fortunate thing for you to have a longer period of your life to live after you found somebody that celebrates you, but you also found yourself, the part of you that celebrates you. And that's probably which came first, her or you?
Her.
Yeah, see, you're really blessed because I don't think that's usually, maybe, I don't know, I guess it works both ways. For me, it did not work that way. I had to find me before the right person showed up. I had to
I knew who
really,
I was, but no one ever got to see that.
yeah,
So it's like I knew, but I wasn't living that. That wasn't me to anybody else. So she kind of gave me permission to just take off all the masks and just be real.
wow.
Well, I I think of what you've experienced, and I'm reminded we saw a biopic, the Whitney Houston story. I want to dance with
Mm,
somebody,
yeah.
and she was in a situation where she had a very similar path. She was very much whoever it was that she was supposed to be at any given point until we got to see her crack up quite publicly.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's it's painful to watch. I know we can look at clips of her on any of the scrolling feeds, and it was very public how it just all came crashing down at the end.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad that you can share a completely different way that things can unfold when you can just be true to yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know that I am very fortunate that although I feel late to the game, I'm also like it all happened right at the right time when I was ready. So yeah.
Yeah, that late to the game thing is really very um, relative, you know,
Hmm.
it really is. Um, but yeah, what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. So what would you say, what is some of the primary things that have changed about your life after you stepped into that vulnerable, authentic Nico? You know, no more pleasing people, no more putting on the masks. What has that facilitated in your life?
That there's so much. I'm trying to think of all them. So being raised very strict, I was raised, I did not wear anything but skirts. You don't cut your hair. You don't wear makeup. You don't, don't. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, let's go shopping. So I started dressing what felt comfortable to me. Because although I was wearing skirts, I was also wearing like flannels and baseball caps and tennis shoes. I'm like, whatever I can do to kind of like make this me, I would do that, but it was never me. I started dressing the way that I felt, the way that felt comfortable for me. I stopped my first name, everybody called me that. I moved to this area and was like, I'm going by my middle name immediately because that's not me. That doesn't feel like me. So I started going by Niko. Um, I went through this whole transformation of how do I even identify myself to people? A lot of people who have been in the community for a long time are automatically, well, how do you identify? There were so many options, so I had to do a lot of research about how I even feel that I exist. And even then, it's like trying on coats to see what fits. Um, so I did a lot of that. Um, and then coming to a realization of where I am and how I feel in my own skin, um, that's a whole other coming out, and trying to get people who don't really understand your lifestyle in the first place to understand why you got to be even more different. Um, so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm a little gender fluid. And then I was like, no, because it's not really fluid because I don't really flow into a really feminine space very often. Yes, I was assigned female at birth. I know that I was assigned female at birth, but that's about the extent of it. I don't want to be a man. but I also don't want to be called Miss or anything like that. So I started kind of like thinking about the non-binary, doing my research. I'm finding creators who also identify that way to see if that's kind of something that feels comfortable. And it took me a few years to really come into that, really that decision that, okay, no, this is exactly what feels good. My wife started using they, them pronouns for me. And I felt there was such a difference because every time somebody would say she or Miss Nicko, there was this cringe, this just very silent, very small. But it was just like, eh, you know. Then when she would say, well, they, there was just like this breath that I took every time that was said. And okay, well, that feels really comfortable. That feels so much more me. And then I said, okay, yeah, well, I feel like I found where I stand because I'm just in this weird middle space where I'm just me. That's that's how I identify. I am me and I wear what I want to wear, which most of the time is going to be joggers and Jordans and baseball hats. And that's just my comfort level where I like. And yeah, it was just finding this like what feels like me and to be at that age and trying to figure out what feels me has been, a few years to really kind of take a deep breath and go, okay, that's it. That fits.
As
And
you begin to discover the way you wanted to dress, the way you wanted to present to the world, and you begin to lean into that, how did friends and family respond?
Well, I lost almost all of my friends initially when I came out because I was raised in a church, and the church is where my social crowd was. All the kids that I grew up with, that I was in youth group with, everything. I went through a lot of hard conversations with the people who I felt like were my core. Um, those are the people who I didn't send a text and I didn't write an email. I made lunch dates and I made coffee dates and we did one on one meetings. And I'm coming out to you face to face and I'm having a conversation with you. And most of those conversations, I came home one less friend. And it wasn't ever just like, absolutely not. It was this very, I can't even really explain. The response was more like, well, this changes everything. Or, okay, well, you know that this means I don't want you around my children. Or, well, you know how we believe. It's nothing that was ever just like, hey, I love you no matter what. So those conversations were hard in the beginning because I was somebody, they thought they knew me. But when I started becoming myself, I had people who surprised me and really showed up hard for me, who I didn't ever feel like were my core people, but have somehow become those core people.
Isn't it amazing how the universe works?
Yeah.
You know, you those people were revealing that they never were your friends to begin with. But, that's not making them wrong in any way. They were friends with somebody that didn't exist
Hmm.
in reality.
well,
They
and
were they
then
were in they were friends with somebody. They were friends and loved somebody that was an illusion.
right. Well, and in some ways, they may still be trapped. They may still be clinging to what feel are their only options, and they may have yet to be able to embrace their full truth because they're picking from the menu of choices that were assigned.
Right. And I can see that as somebody who was raised most of my life the same as them. Like, and I don't condemn that at all. Um, Everybody makes their own decisions. And that just ended up where I knew that that was something that I could not be and be myself. So there
You
was a
know,
decision to be made.
I can remember at one point after I came out to my parents that they were like, we were raised that this was wrong. We're talking about this is so hard because we were raised that this was wrong. And I looked at him and he said, "Excuse me, you raised me the same way you were raised. All my life I've been told this is wrong." And it's like something that's inside of me. I said, I was like, I really don't want to hear how hard this is on you. I don't want to hear that. I took a
Absolutely.
stand because you have no fucking idea how hard this is.
Right. And people who think I'm just making a choice off of a fad, off of something that I've watched on TV or that I've been around certain people, anybody that would choose to make their life harder on purpose, that doesn't make sense. And I was raised in the most, if anybody was going to be straight, it was going to be me if we go about how you were raised. Like I was raised around only straight people, uh, small town, country, it was very conservative. And I was in church every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, youth group, everything. So if anybody was going to it was going to work for, they were going to be straight, it would have been me. But of course, my mom didn't know that in elementary school. I would tell the little girls in like first, second grade that, well, my name's really Niko, and my mom just likes to dress me like a girl just so that they would kiss me. So I've known for a very long time without the verbiage for it as a young kid. But when I look back, like even a friend that I talked to, she was like, "Do you remember when you used to all tell us, that your name was Niko and you'd kiss the girls?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, totally. I wanted the girls to chase me on the playground, not the boys." So
My
it's been
goodness.
it's been
Elementary school playa.
I know. And I told mom, I said, "You didn't realize that my first crush was Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show." That was my awakening. So it's been there for a long time.
So that leads me to believe maybe that mom's come full circle. You can have that conversation with her.
We're working on it. I know it's uncomfortable for her, but while it may be uncomfortable, she lets me know, that I love you unconditionally. So that's still there, but I do know it's uncomfortable for her too. So I'm trying to take it. A lot has happened in the last 5, 6 years for her to have to come to terms with. I mean, I came out and then I brought my girlfriend there, which because I am from a small country town, my wife is a woman of color. So
Oh,
I
girl,
bring my black
I'm sorry.
I bring my black wife home to,
Yeah.
our small town, and then now I'm wearing pants and I've got, tattoos, and so she's for all that she's been dealt in 6 years, she is gracefully handling this. We'll say that.
You've broken all the rules.
I am. I'm the worst child. It's so true. But even my wife says, "Hey, slow down. Granny's still alive. Don't get any more tattoos. Like take it easy on her." My grandmother. So I try, but at the same time, it's like you feel this excitement for life all of a sudden because it's yours. It's not,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not living somebody else's. So you want to do all the things that you want to do and just live. So I try to be mindful of, not letting my family stroke out from all the changes that they're having to deal with at once. So
Well, let's circle back and talk a little bit about your creative journey.
sure.
You said that you've been creative all your life. How did that get started?
My great grandmother was a painter. And then my great aunt and my grandmother painted, and I grew up, with their paintings were everywhere. And my great grandmother painted on everything. It wasn't just canvas. She painted on like denim jackets and rocks. She would get rocks and paint things on rocks and um, old tin cans. I mean, everything she painted on. Um,
The
and
world
then
was her
as
canvas.
it was, and if you went into her home, I mean, everything was painted by her. And she had a store. My great grandmother had a store when I was younger, and it was called Cobblestone Way. And it was full of all these little things that she painted. And she loved to paint roses. She painted roses on everything. And so I saw that. That was never my style, though. I always grew up drawing more. Well, I drew a lot. I was always into drawing and did a lot of like cartoons, animation type stuff. I could just look at something and draw it. And I got to where in school, when we got lockers, my friends would be, "Hey, can you draw me this for my locker?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then I got more questions for that. And then I started drawing like sports teams, logos, and all kinds of things. And everybody was loving it. And I'd have the Tasmanian devil wearing the jersey that they wanted or whatever. So I realized there was a market for it. So I'm young and I'm like, okay, I'll draw it, but you pay me 50 cents. And so then I started selling my art in elementary school. I became an entrepreneur at a very young age.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's where it all started was all with drawing. I drew and I've um, been in music. I've been playing music and singing for 30 years now, I guess. So it just everything creative. I started doing murals and I started
Talent
just
just oozes out of your pores, doesn't it?
if it's creative, I can do it. That's what I tell everybody. It's almost like the tagline for my business now because it's not just I don't just design logos and things. I mean, if it's creative, let me try. I even if I've never done it, I can probably do it. That's how I feel, or I
Nice.
can give it a good stab. So
Wow.
That's great. Tell me this. I mean, with all of those things that you've done, like what are your your proudest achievements?
right now, I think I am just a little over a year into going full time with my design job. So I started my business full time thanks to my wife and CFO
Mhm.
funding the dream. She has the serious job between the two of us, but she said, "You do this on the side for so many people and you love it so much. Why don't you just go full time?" And I was like, I've had a serious job my whole life. I've worked in healthcare for almost the majority of it. I was in healthcare administration. It's crazy, nothing creative about that. But I said, okay, well, if you think we're good to go, then I'll try it out. And just December was 1 year. And then I have been announced by the Frisco Chamber of Commerce that I'm up for Entrepreneur of the Year at their gala this year
Good for
and the
you.
Business Excellence Award. So that's huge for me.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that is
Yeah.
so fabulous.
Because I do not feel like I have a serious job. So when I said Entrepreneur of the Year, I'm like, that sounds way bigger than what I do. I work in my office that has like toys in it, but somebody sees something in that I'm doing
You
and
know,
appreciates it. And I'm honored.
we have to change the narrative. That comes from someplace too. There's programming. We've gotten messages at an early time that creativity is for your hobby, but you need to get a
Hmm.
real job.
Exactly.
And what you're doing is a real job, or you wouldn't be getting ready to take an honor of Entrepreneur of the Year.
Amen.
I hope so. Yeah, a three-time nominee for my first year of business is I I'm I honestly thought that they just told me that I was nominated, that somebody had nominated me, not that I was on the list of nominees. I really just thought they were like, "Oh, good job, somebody nominated you." But then they put out the list and I said, "Oh, no, this is for real. I'm up for 3 awards this year in my first year of business." That's just mind-blowing to me.
I love that. And people need to hear that. Our creative community needs to hear that.
Hmm.
Creativity is real as anything else.
It is.
It's
And
all the
there's
way
not
we hold
enough
it in our
people.
mind.
Right. There's not enough people who put it out there as this is what I do. And, this is my job. A lot of people like to say, oh, well, I do this, but no buts. This is what I do. And it's funny how, and the biggest thing about my business is that I started off very cookie cutter with like, this is my business and I provide these services, the end. And then the more I started thinking about it, I thought, well, I want my business to be me. I want to be the brand. I
Mhm.
don't want to create some logo that I think everybody likes, but I want everything about this business to reflect me. And so that makes me the brand. And then I started changing how I marketed my business into, hey, I'm neurodivergent and queer. Welcome to my website.
I
Very,
love it.
I'm here. I'm very open. So you're going to get a different experience with me than you're going to get with just anybody else. And yes, my brain works differently, but that's a superpower at the same time. So I can probably give you something that you haven't gotten from somebody else. And ever since I started doing that, then people start showing up because they want something real.
I'd like
And
to reflect how that mirrors exactly what you went through when you had to go through that whittling away of having to do what everyone expected.
mhm,
Having to be one way in church and having to drive an hour in any direction to go and uh, wear some other mask.
mhm. It's so
And
true.
I
It's
think
like,
so
it's so
true.
amazing that you said out loud, it's a superpower because it is.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of neurodivergent people don't see it that way. And we've been having this conversation a lot lately because we want to normalize neurodivergence.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't be a bit surprised if more than half of the world's population is neurodivergent.
Oh, yeah.
We,
So
we
many
talk
people
about
like to be
normal.
normal.
Well, what
Yeah.
the hell is that? You know?
Never been
Um,
there. Who is she?
I mean, everything has its good and its bad.
Hmm.
Every coin has two sides. And there are things that make life more challenging as a neurodivergent. And then there are things that are friggin' superpowers.
Hmm. You just have to
And
lean into it.
yes,
And that's kind of what I've done is just, I
lean in
could
and
look at
own
it.
it.
Exactly. I could look at it as, my brain is, some days it doesn't work at all. I cannot make it work. Like the switch is broken or something. But then some days it's just sparked and it's on fire. And it may be 3 a.m. when it comes on, but it comes on, thankfully. But it's totally different the way my mind works. And it doesn't work normally. And I like that because it makes me different and it makes what I what services I provide and the products that I can offer totally different from everybody else's.
Well, and because you're wearing it as an identity now, I mean, your opening line on your website is, hey, I'm neurodivergent and queer.
Hmm.
That makes it more of a superpower. You're leading with
Right.
that, and it sets you apart. I had somebody tell me one time, and I say this a lot because this left such an impression on me. I don't remember who it was now, but it was somebody that was mentoring me, and they said, don't try to be the best. There's only one
Mm.
place for the best. Try to be unique. Find ways to look at what everybody else in your field is doing and do something that nobody else is doing. That's just your thing. And they weren't
Hmm.
talking about the service that I provided necessarily. You know, it was perhaps the way I provide that service.
Right. And
But
that's
that
the same
stuck
with
with me.
me. Yeah. When people look at my website, they hear my voice if they've met me. It sounds just like me. Everything that I do, nothing is putting on any kind of front of professionalism. This is the level of professional that you get with me. And yes, I will be professional, but only to a certain level. You're going to get me. I think my website says I am the love child of Darth Vader, Tony Stark, and Deadpool. Make of it what you will. And that's exactly what you get with me.
Well, and you can be professional without being polished.
Absolutely. And I think
And
people need
polish is
that
part of
though.
that mask that we've all worn.
Right. That's what people want. They want something real. If they wanted just somebody that was completely polished, then they could find anybody. But
I just have to call out that the thing that all of those have in common is that they were deeply wounded. They were scarred, but they were able to overcome things that should have killed them.
Wow. I actually have never thought of it that way, but that is so true. Like every one of them. And that's me. Yeah. Wow. Wait till I tell my wife that. She's going to love that. But that's amazing. That's so true. Ah, I never thought of it that way. But absolutely. What should have killed me only made me stronger and more sarcastic.
More determined.
Definitely. I tell myself I'm very resilient. I can get past anything. I can deal with anything.
So, Nico, if you were going to speak to the part of the world out there listening that is perhaps creative, because that's our audience, also perhaps neurodivergent, and perhaps um, has a different way of living life. They don't fit into the normal boxes of he and she. If you were going to drop a little bit of wisdom on them based on your life and what you've learned, what would you say?
Own it. Be it. Do it. Don't wait for somebody else to give you permission. Just lean in to everything that's you. And that's when people start to come and surround you. And whether it's supporting your art or your business or just friendships, once you lean into that authenticity and really drop all the walls, that's where you really draw people in. Where you think that you're putting up walls to protect yourself, if you drop them, you actually create more of a barrier of people around you, which is more people fighting for you. So,
That's beautifully said. And if you do need permission, Nico, Dwight, and I are now, right in this moment, giving you permission.
approved. Do that.
There you go.
Absolutely. I did. I started a community online called Creative Rebellion, and it's for those creatives who are different. And that's what I always tell them. If you need a space that you feel completely comfortable with just throwing out ideas or just somebody just to hype you up and gas you up, because I'm so good at that. I love to gas people up. Then, find your community, find the people who are going to support you and just be your hype people. That's what all you need. Because that's when you start to thrive, is when you have people who like super support you no matter what.
I agree completely. It's such a blessing to be surrounded with people that just see you and hear you and accept you and celebrate you.
Right. And it's a relief to you if you haven't had that before. Once you start to feel that, then it's like you're breathing like good air for the first time.
Yeah. Well, and you need that community to override that inner critic that we all carry.
You do. Yeah. You don't want your voice to be the only one that you hear because it's usually not good. At least for mine, I need to hear from other people. And that's when it makes sense to me. I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe it is good if the people I trust the most are telling me that it's good. So find those
Yeah.
people that you can trust.
I love to bounce things off of people around me that I
Hmm.
trust. It's to me the best form of communication. I've never been one to really write in a journal, but if I can sit down with somebody that I trust and just open up, all the answers that I'm searching for come to me in that conversation, even if they just listen.
Hmm. Right. I've always loved having those deep. I'm a really lighthearted and really chill but fun person, but I love having those deep conversations with people who I feel like I can just throw around ideas and we're both kind of contributing something. It helps you grow. You stay stagnant if you don't have that kind of relationship with someone.
You have a good head on your shoulders. Do others tell you that?
Maybe, but not enough. Not enough for me to believe it yet.
You, you, your conversation, Your body language is very grounded feeling to me. What's coming off of you feels very grounded.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to
And
me.
who doesn't need grounding? So, and if anybody's listening right now, I'm sure they're feeling more grounded just from being in your presence.
I hope so. That's my goal is my wife sometimes calls me gay Jesus because she says that I'm the person who wants to find everybody and support them. If you don't have a support system, then I'm going to be that person. And she's like, you're going to do these things and open yourself up. And she goes, and people are just going to come to you because they feel comfortable. And I was like, I hope so. That's what I want. It's the reason I've put myself in certain situations in the community, not because necessarily I feel like I'm the best person for it, but because I'm the only person that looks like me. And I want to be that person that when somebody comes through the door, they see somebody that's different. And I'm like, hey, you're welcome. It's safe. You're good. I'm used to being the person that looks completely different from everybody else. Me at women enhancing business meetings. At first, I was like, why are you inviting me? That doesn't even feel like, but they do. But I said, well, you need somebody that looks like me because somebody else that looks like me might want to join one day.
That's brilliant. I think it's cool that they're inviting you.
hmm
You
Oh, I
know,
make them love me. That's the whole goal. Like, you may not have one other person in the LGBTQ plus community, but I'm going to make you love me so that you have a face on it, that you can see the humanity in it. And oh, well, somebody I love has that kind of lifestyle. Well, it's not what everybody's saying. I know that person. I want to be that physical, person in their life that says, okay, well, maybe my thoughts before were a little different. And I need
Yeah.
to kind of calibrate that a little bit.
Yeah. People fear what they don't understand. And
Exactly.
if there is a reference that's something that's close, something familiar, someone that they know, someone who they've touched, then it becomes that much harder to just go with the herd and think that it's okay
hmm
to hate someone.
Right. Yeah. Give it some humanity. And then your thinking changes, which
yeah.
I'm all
It's
for. I
it
love to make
sounds
them love me.
it sounds like you have a strong community around you.
I'm working on it. I'm building it slowly but surely.
Oh, I love that. Instead of just showing up to something that somebody else has created, you're creating something that's your community. That's so empowering.
hmm Everything I do, like people in my home that come into my home, these are the people I know that I can be 100% Neko. There's This is my community that I can be real. I don't have time to waste to be masked up anymore. So
Yeah. Well,
it's very
you
important.
know, when you lay the mask down, you realize how draining it was.
Definitely.
We've
Yeah, my
worn it for
mental
so
health
much
was
of our life.
horrible.
We don't get it until we lay it down. We lay it down. It was like, oh my God, that was heavy.
hmm Very much so. It's so nice to be kind of loosey goosey now and free from all of that.
Nico, this has been an amazing conversation.
I've enjoyed it so much. I'm so glad that you guys had me on.
Yeah, this has been
Yeah.
wonderful.
I just, once again want to acknowledge you for coming in with such openness. You have trusted Dwight and I with, the very intimate details of your life, and we feel very, very honored. And I know that there are many listeners out there that are going to gain value of what you've shared.
I hope so. Even if one, that'll be
Yes.
plenty for me.
We never know where that trickle effect, that little ripple effect is gonna go.
hmm
Sometimes we get to see it. Every once in a while, if we're lucky, we get to see somebody that we impacted that just lets us know that they impacted us and we would have never known otherwise, but which is a super treat.
Huge.
Huge.
I can only imagine.
Well, as we draw to a close, is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't had a chance to cover?
I don't think so. I just love the fact that above Maddox's head, we see authentic. And I think that's pretty much the theme of what this whole thing is about. And told you before, but my 2026 word is authentic. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
it's
striving for.
it's my 26, 25, 24, 23. That's been up there
Hmm.
for a while, and it's amazing how many comments I get on that when we get on Zoom.
Hmm.
Always
That's
people
my
say,
word.
"Oh my God, I love that."
Yeah, everything that I'm doing, I'm just being Niko. So everybody's just whatever. This is what you see. This is what you get, and it's
It's the
nice. I like
gift.
it.
It's
I
the
like
gift
it.
to
Yeah,
you and to everybody else.
absolutely. At least we hope so.